Is Beck finally catching on to Joe's creepy ways? Probably not. But what better person to ask than Beck herself? We have Elizabeth Lail here in the studio tonight to talk about this week's episode of You, so stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for tuning into the You After show here at AfterBuzz TV. Tonight, we're going to be breaking down Season 1, Episode 8, titled You Got Me, Babe, with our special guest, Elizabeth Lail. And guys, don't forget about our special segment, Wishes Book versus Show, which Elizabeth will also be staying for at the end of the recap. I'm your host, Sam Davidson, and I have my lovely panel here next to me.
Hi, I'm Taquaila.
Hi, everybody. I'm Maggie Clark.
Hey guys, I'm Renee, Ariel.
And Elizabeth Lail herself.
Yay! We're so excited.
We're seriously so pumped that you're here. I can't even tell you. We're going to be breaking all about Joe and Beck's very sexy love affair. Hashtag fairy sex, okay? Never heard of that before. Karen and Joe's breakup, and of course Paco's issue with his mother and all of that craziness. It was a really fun episode, and I'm just extremely amped that Elizabeth is here. How excited are you guys?
So excited. So happy. I mean, you're my favorite character on the show. It's just so amazing that you're actually here with us live.
Oh, thank you.
And guys, we're also in the live chat, so please let us know your thoughts. We're going to give you some shout outs. It's going to be a lot of fun. Before we get into it and ask you all the questions, let's talk about our overall thoughts of the episode. We'll start with you, Renee.
I loved this episode, but okay, you guys, all season long, I've been doing a really good job of knowing what's wrong and what's right, and that Joe's wrong, and that Beck needs to be with someone else. And then this episode, it felt a little rom-commy to me in some aspects, and now I'm confused.
Well, first of all, I did like the Karen and Joe relationship. It seemed like it was really good for him. He was actually on the right path. But I am in no way a fan of cheating at all. But I gotta say, it was really steamy seeing the two of them have their affair.
I'm with Maggie. I love that you just brought in another person for it could have been Beck, but this time it was Joe, just to break up their relationship, because it did seem so full force. It did seem that they'd see no one else but each other. So just to give them a little bit time to breathe, which was nice. And Karen was okay. They look cute together, but it also went back to the passion and the energy and the vibe that we love from Joe and Beck. So I was glad that towards the end they're back together.
And this is also a good point to mention that, of course, we support some of these relationships that aren't very good for people, and some of them are about stalking. We're just joking. It's just we're watching a story, we're watching a TV show, but it's funny how this episode we all kind of catch ourselves being like, ooh, we know this is bad, but it's so much fun to watch. Yeah. What about you, Elizabeth? Watching this episode back and having the time jump, did you enjoy shooting it, or did you enjoy watching it?
I loved shooting this episode. I think because it did have a bit of a rom-com feel. But what I love doing most as an actor is kind of like the hard stuff, and Beck is in a particularly hard place. Especially when it comes to like feeling like she's not good at, she essentially doesn't feel like she's good enough for Joe there at the end, which I think is heartbreaking and really relatable. So I like tapping into that, as weird as that is, and I like that she becomes the stalker in this one.
Oh yeah,
but she's like what we deem like funny stalking.
Stalking appropriate.
Acceptable.
It's like, where's the
Renee.
stalking line?
Exactly.
Well, yes, that's a very, very good question.
Well, and speaking of the balance, we have someone in the chat. Her name is Nicole Faith. She does have a quick question, and she wants to know, how did you balance Beck's naivety with strength?
Well, I think that Beck, I don't really think of her as naive. I think the audience really sees her that way because it's so clear to them what a terrible person he is. But like you guys were saying, they have such chemistry. They have so much in common. They have such a connection that it's like we're all a bit blind in relationships, whether it be love or lust or just like feeding your ego, which Beck does all of those things.
Yes.
And so she's not particularly strong yet.
Ooh.
I would say she's, And my poor mom, she watches the show and she goes, "This is not the woman I raised you to be."
Like, no, Mom, that's accurate.
Yeah, and I'm like, "Don't worry, Mom, it's not me. It's not me." And
Oh my God.
but Beck is unfortunately like operating from a somewhat low self-esteem at times, and kind of grasping at like outward things to make her happy, and so that makes her at risk and vulnerable.
I say that every week. That's what happens to single girls. I mean, honestly, now I think about it all the time, actually. And like, just because you want to meet someone tonight, Sam, does not mean that you should become vulnerable to a potential psychopath. I think about it now.
I'm glad you give yourself that pep talk.
I really do.
There. I'm proud of
Having
you.
a positive impression on you.
Yeah. So I want to start off with Dr. Nicki, who we only get a little bit of this episode, but he completely kind of changes the narrative of the show, and he is having sessions with both Joe and with Beck. And with Joe, he's still doing this whole facade of him being gay, and he's making up names. And I'm just like, why does he have to be gay? It's just, what if he uses the wrong pronoun? That could just be so easy to throw Dr. Nicki off when he gets really into his therapy. But he's actually like sharing a lot with him, which I found cool but bad. Dumb, but it's like, hopefully he's gonna get caught. I don't know. What did you guys think about him sharing so much with him?
Like, Joe, if you actually want to go to therapy, find another therapist.
Right.
Are you serious? I'm like, this guy's Dr. Nicki's onto him at this point, like 1,000%. There's no way. Not that he's a stalker, but that that Ronaldo is actually back. There is no way those sessions lined up the way we saw them. He would have to be a little dumb.
Well, he's high all the time, so you never know.
I don't think he has any clue at all.
Oh, I 100% do.
No way. I think that maybe he doesn't believe absolutely everything that Joe is saying, but I don't think that he realizes that he is the Beck's Joe.
I think it came to a heat when they were both like, they called out for their sessions and they're like, no more mouse in my house, or that mouth tried to be gone. So I feel like that kind of might have spiked his spidey sense, like, okay, maybe this might be the two of them in cahoots, but not for
the mouse
sure.
situation?
Yeah.
How would he not? He's giving them the same metaphor. There's no way.
Maybe he tells every one of his clients the same metaphor.
Yeah, but there would have to be the same situation for that metaphor. And the fact that, like, they've been seeing him for a while, like, the stories keep lining up. There's no way. There's no way. We saw him. I texted him. He texted me. You know, like, there's no way this guy doesn't know.
Elizabeth, what do you have to say? Do you have anything to add?
Well, I know.
Of course you know.
So I'm no horse in the race. But I do think that, like, Joe is using the therapy as an opportunity to help himself.
Oh, sure.
While at the same time trying to get closer to Beck.
Yeah, it probably is a subconscious thing too. He's convinced himself, oh no, I just actually like therapy, and I actually like seeing Dr. Nicki. But again, he could find another therapist and actually say who he is.
And how fascinating that, like, the moment they have each other to, like, feed off of, they just drop therapy, which I think is, you know, quite common. It's like we think we have, like, this external success, like, in a relationship, and we're done. We're good.
Exactly. And then we have another relationship that does not last too long. You know, it's Karen and Joe. And when you guys were talking about Karen earlier, I'm that person. I'm so loyal to my characters. I'm like, nope, never going to like you. Just never going to happen.
Good.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Felt very loyal to Beck, and they go out for froyo, her and Joe, and then they run into Beck, and obviously,
I love that
Beck
scene.
has been
Me too.
canvassing the neighborhood. I love that. Tell us a little bit about shooting that scene.
I love that scene because, well, like I said earlier, Beck is officially doing the stalking, and I like that she's kind of caught, and it's that moment when you see your ex and your heart drops.
Definitely.
You see them when, you know, you're kind of like willing them to you. You're like, oh, I hope we run into each other. You know, you really want to run into your ex. I don't know what that's all about, but she gets to, and then it's awkward, and Yeah, that scene is just so cute and fun, and that's again feels rom-commy as well.
Yeah, it was painfully awkward. Like for
It
me
was-
as a viewer, I was like, no, someone say something. Joe said nothing. It was so awkward.
Right, and Beck kept turning around
Yeah.
as they walked away, and I was like, turn around, Joe, turn
I
around and look at her.
know.
But then he turned around just a second too late. Well, she already turned the corner.
I know. It's
And honestly,
classic.
there are times when I see reality here and I'm like, good, run, don't turn around. Like you are 2 episodes away from being killed. I don't know. I haven't read the book. I have no idea what happens. But, you know, very nervous. And especially with Karen too, when she starts fighting with him and I'm like, girl, get out of there. You got to get out of there, because once Joe lets his guard down a little bit and we see that creepy side of him, I remember that he is he is a murderer. We just don't know how many people he's murdered, right?
Well, now we know for sure. This episode validated the whole theory of did he murder people before Benji? Because he was saying, I'm not a murderer, I'm not a murderer. And he's saying that again, and he is a murderer. Like, we know that now. So he definitely killed, Candace?
Candace.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that for sure. But
We're going to get into her in a little bit. Before we do, of course, Blythe is now such a big part of the show.
I love that character so much.
She's great.
Hysterical.
Yeah, I mean, we needed someone to balance Ethan out a little bit,
Yeah.
because what was his purpose really in the show if it wasn't for this? Do you know what I mean? So they move in together, Blythe and Ethan, and it's kind of a setup, you know, for Joe and Beck. Set up by Beck, I think, specifically, right? She kind of encroached on that to see Joe, I'm thinking.
Right. Yeah. To move in. To help
Yeah,
them move in.
To help them
definitely.
move and all of that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that whole scene, she's highly aware of his presence and her effect on him. And it's very,
Oh, yeah.
she's like happy about it too.
She's like bending over the
Yeah.
table.
Oh yeah, because that.
She's like,
Sitting
I know you love
directly
this
next-
shirt.
Well, can I ask, what's it like shooting those scenes, and what does it say in the script when it's very clear to the audience you are being suggestive of something, you know, bend over this way? Like, what do they say?
I don't think bend over was in the script. I think that was all natural. But it did say, you know, she's like dressed like casually attractive, and you know, it suggests that that's certainly her intent. Which it always is when you know you're gonna see your ex. You want to look like you didn't try at all, but like your best smelling ever or something.
Yeah.
And I love those kinds of scenes because there is that unspoken energy going on.
There was a lot.
Which is, and they're just like packing, they're just like unpacking things. And he's, of course, narrating, but like that's all they're doing. But they're this close.
And you could feel the tension and
Yeah.
the energy between the two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very satisfying to play because I think that's when like Beck really like hooked him.
Yeah, people in the chat, if you felt this tension, do a hands up emoji or just say hands up. I felt it. We're going to see how many people felt it, because I bet you that it's going to be a lot. Before we get in to the rest of this amazing episode, we have some other things to tell you that's going on here at AfterBuzz.
Yeah, you guys. So I don't know if you know this, but our network produces after shows for nearly all your favorite TV shows, from dramas, reality TV, sci-fi, and more. There is no network that works harder to serve television fans. But we need your help, so we're asking you that you please subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. By subscribing to our channel, YouTube will suggest content that's tailor-made for you, and you'll help AfterBuzz continue to grow. But if you're worried about pesky notifications, don't be, because they're optional. So hit that subscribe button now for this channel and check out our other AfterBuzz YouTube channels as well. Let us know you did so in the comments, and we will thank you on air. But for now, thanks for being the best fans in the world and for helping us be the ESPN of TV talk.
Yes, thank you guys so much. And we have so many other shows we all do here that are just as juicy as you, so you must check them out. Okay, so we have this date that Beck essentially asks Joe on. Oh, I want you to read my work. Is that like the writer's way of being like, I want to, you know, is that it?
I mean, it's a very personal thing, your work.
Sure.
And she like trusts his insight, but it's 100% like, I want to see you. I don't think she necessarily knows that he's going to be willing to like step over the line.
I have such an inappropriate question, but like, did Beck go into this just not wearing underwear? She's like, I'm just not going to wear underwear today. I don't know. Let's see what happens. Yeah.
One of those. Like,
Yeah, move it to the side situation.
Yeah.
Gotta ask. Thank you for that honest answer. But that's what I assumed, you know, it's just one
That
of
was
those. Or
cute.
she was just like
as far
really
as I know,
hopeful.
she tends to wear underwear. And it was very cold.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I
So
bet.
I will say that. Cold day, still in a dress.
Mm,
Oof.
So
she
But it
answered
made
my
it hot and
question.
steamy afterwards, though.
She wanted
so
to show
I
off
think
those
we're
legs.
satisfied. Yeah.
Okay, the legs, yeah. No, but it was a fascinating scene, and I was watching it at a little like thing at work today. You know, headphones on, thank goodness, because I learned my lesson 1 week. Headphones for sure. But I was watching it, and I was like, "Oh, she's not. Oh, they're gonna. Oh my God, they're doing it! Wow!" But it was an extremely sexy scene, I have to say. Did you guys agree?
So
definitely.
sexy.
Yeah, I was shocked that this happened though, because remember back a few episodes ago when Joe thought that's what she liked, like doing stuff out in public, and she completely shut him down. They were at a mattress store or their furniture
Yeah,
shopping.
the mattress. Mhm.
And now she kind of initiated. Well, they both. I don't really know who made the first move. Joe might have leaned and then something happened, but she was all down for it.
But she told him to
But I
lean.
took exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like she was leading and saying that I think I know what you're thinking. So
Right.
just with him to take the lead
like,
after
I
that,
dare you.
like double dare, and then the stare down. Yes.
You could just feel this energy through the screen. It was like, oh my gosh, like they just can't resist one another.
Yes.
And then the sexy montage that followed was so hot. I mean, my notes literally are lots of sex. Wow, so hot. Wow, super hot. Sex montage. I mean, I was like on my computer, like, this is awesome. I mean, it was really entertaining and a lot of fun for the audience. And it just was bound to happen, I think.
yeah.
Can you tell us about, like, you know, just especially the ferry though, like how shooting that was that super weird and awkward?
That was such a beautiful day. That was like the
Aw.
best shooting day, actually, because we were on the circle line, just our crew, like a small version of our crew. And so it was like just us on this beautiful ferry, like riding around New York City, like stunning. It was cold, but not terrible. And like it was just like easily intimate. And Penn is just so funny. I remember one time we were filming and he's like, "Oh, I guess I'm gonna be filmed with New Jersey behind me," and I was like, "That's New York City. Actually, your coverage is gonna be New York City, and my coverage is gonna be New Jersey, diva." It was just so funny. Anyways, maybe you had to be there.
No, I get it.
great.
I love that story. So, I mean, it was just because I always imagine those scenes. I'm like, what must it be like? They must do cut, you know, go back on his lap, straddle him again. I mean, it must be a little
it was hard
bit.
on my knees, and you know what I noticed watching the show? I had some red knee going on, and I was like, well, because you guys don't know yet, but I eventually straddle, and I was like, oh, you could see where my knees had been banging.
It sounds great. It's okay.
Yes.
And I love that, like, you know, your mom, your grandma watch it. They just,
My poor parents.
honestly, my mom once told me that she'd even come to my shows if I was a stripper, which is obviously never going to happen. But I was, you know, she was
That's
supporting.
supportive.
No, she's
Unconditional.
wants to be there
That's so
no
sweet.
matter what. So sweet.
That's great.
really
Oh, like
is.
a real stripper, not an actress playing a stripper.
Either. I mean, she would be there for any of
Either
either
one.
There with her single.
Dollar
I love
bills.
that. I like that though.
Yeah,
Taquaila.
she'd just be
Like,
waving.
hi, Mom.
I know. And it's funny because like we skipped 3 months and we already had skipped some time before, but this episode things are happening so fast. Like there's the party that happens. It's the housewarming party, right? Is that what it is? So, and it's that awkward moment where, you know, the other woman who's also the ex is meeting the current girlfriend, and then, you know, we finally get everyone together and Beck starts to feel a lot of guilt because she, you know, thinks that Karen is really nice, which she was really nice in that scene. And then, of course, she breaks up with him and she does it for Joe. She's being such a martyr. Tell us a little bit about that as an actress, because you mentioned it earlier, because she really feels like she's not good enough for him.
You know, is she? Is she really doing it for Joe? I think, you know, we all do things kind of like under this guise of like, oh, this is better for everyone else. But actually, I'm just so wrapped up in my own pain and sorrow and self-hatred that like getting off on cutting myself at the knees.
Yeah.
Which I think is essentially what she's doing. I think she does have a moral dilemma going on inside of her. But when you're dealing with that kind of like moral dilemma, it becomes like physically painful potentially. And I think that's what she's experiencing, and so she's trying to be the bigger person, but at the same time she's doing it like at the sake of her own self, which is not very loving or kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's for either of them.
Yeah, and she's
ultimately.
I thought that one line was so interesting that she said, "It came from how scared I was to need you."
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's so telling about her character.
Yeah.
That she was like, no, I want to be an independent woman. I don't want to have to need this man that I'm in a relationship with. And she said, you deserve better. And gosh, you know, it's like she recognized this relationship between Joe and Karen, and Beck loved him so much that she was willing to step away.
And I think that was true for just real life. And
Yeah.
you're watching it, or maybe it's just me, I get so deep into like what they're saying and everything that too, because when you do feel that need for someone and you don't realize it's a desire rather than a fear, you tend to run the opposite way because you don't know what that's going to produce on the other side, and if that person is feeling the same way you do too. So I thought that was a powerful line as well. I loved it.
Yeah, the writing is so great.
It
in this
is.
So
episode.
good.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
So then, of course, you know, Joe goes and breaks up with Karen. Just, hey, can you get off my couch?
I know.
But it's
Was
like that sometimes.
crazy.
When you know it's done, it's done. And
I mean,
you just,
at least he did it.
yeah.
But it
Because
was-
I would be like, I'm so sorry.
He did it like a psychopath.
He could've
Like
been a
that
little
was
more
the
kind.
weirdest. It's over. And all he says, and she's like, the
She
show is
handled
not
it
over.
like a psychopath.
She did, and actually, I gotta get into how she handled that after because it didn't add up to me. But in that moment, when then he started to like smile and be like, "Oh, like I was trying to make it work. You're so good for me." It was a
Because he
lot
was
for me to
waiting for
take
her
in.
wrath that
Yeah.
he didn't get, though.
But it was so weird. I like hated the way he handled this breakup. I mean, given I hate the way he does a lot of things, let's be honest. But she also really, really confused me.
Right. She's like walking around getting her cheese grater and
I
like,
know.
you know, like
Flat
this
iron.
weird stuff. I'm like, what?
She was
so rational.
But she was like, that's what I thought though. In the moment, I'm like, she's being the bigger person. She's gonna get out of there and stay out of there. But this is where it got petty. She doesn't know that Joe's a psychopath. Okay, she was doing the petty X thing. That is what she did.
I think she was putting up a wall.
Yeah.
She's
Definitely.
doing that thing she's like, that some people are capable of doing. I'm not. But
Me
she is like refusing to cry, refusing to feel,
Yes.
refusing to give that person any kind of
Power.
Like upper hand.
power. Not that that's in like the game world of relationships.
Right.
But like then to go, that's what I don't understand though. She put up the wall, but then she did the petty thing.
Oh, to go back to Beck?
To go to Beck.
Yeah.
That's where it confused me because she was so like standing tall towards Joe, was whatever, I'm over it, I like out of here. But then she did the petty thing to the woman. And this is what I found the most interesting is because we know he's a scary man. She doesn't. If she did, she would have tried to leave that relationship. I just don't buy that she's actually concerned about Candace or any of that, given maybe we didn't see that. That's true. But I think it was more of she was trying to psych Beck out because she doesn't want anyone at this point to have him. She's like, I want him to be alone. So she tried to scare her away.
Well, she knows he cheated.
Well, yeah.
The
And
cheating,
she's-
yes.
I think that's what she's talking about. She doesn't know any of the other bad stuff.
But the Candace thing?
She's thinking it's like, well, he's like screaming her name at night. It's like he, whatever. I think she's. I mean, she's probably not thinking worst case scenario.
Yeah. I was thinking it was like she always felt like she couldn't fill the void that Beck had left with Joe.
Meanwhile.
And then now she's saying, well, you know what, Beck, you're not going to fill this Candace void. So you're never going to be enough for him. So she's planting these seeds of doubt, and it's her revenge on this breakup situation because she is really hurt.
She's just hurt. She doesn't believe any of this. If she did, the ultimate revenge would have been to just leave them to, burn.
Die.
Yeah.
Leave Beck to
Yeah.
die. I mean, I kind of have a different perspective on the situation, which is I think that she was being a bitch, but she was saying, be careful because this guy might seem like a psycho. And not saying Beck is obviously a very smart woman, but sometimes, like you said earlier, people can become blind by lust and things. And I think Karen might have a little bit more of a hold on reality and that she might know some things that are going on. And
She got dumped. if she dumped him, I would be like all about it. But like she was very confused what was happening when he was dumping her. She wasn't gonna leave.
Well, okay, so here's what I'll say. I think a light bulb went off in Beck's head when she walked away. And then there was just a part of me that thought maybe she's going to start really rethinking things and rethinking some of the things that he's done and he's said. And she might come to a different conclusion that's not true, but still a similar one of him being dishonest.
I think she's gonna want to know more about Candace.
Oh, for
She
sure.
wants to know in the beginning, like I don't know, like in the second or third episode, she's like, "So who's Candace?"
Yeah.
Exactly. And then you guys want to get to like our questions and all of our stuff. So no offense, Paco, we're just going to speed through you for a moment. I mean, I'm sure we're going to figure out a lot more about what's going to happen with this kid, but Claudia is strung out, and Karen was a big part of this, like, you know, helping her get better. They lock her in the book dungeon, which is what I call it, and I think she was haunted by Benji's ghost.
I love that. I love that.
It's like
So
a good
creepy.
Easter egg, right? And, you know, I'm not saying they're saying ghosts are real, but I think just like the essence of somebody and people getting like vibes.
And when you're kind of like on another consciousness when you're sick or something.
Exactly. Because that was weird that that's the first thing that she, you know, says when she gets down there. Yeah.
And when Joe comes down, it's like maybe he comes out when Joe's there.
yeah. I don't know.
Everyone just
It's-
get like the Halloween
Yeah.
chills.
Halloween chills. And then, you know, Claudia is back with, God, Ron.
Ron.
So
Oh, he's the
I am
worst.
so
You guys all
ready.
said his name the same, like Ron.
So ready for Joe to kill Ron. I'm just saying.
Right?
I'm sorry.
Thank you for saying that.
You're
Like,
gonna
if
kill
one person,
anyone.
Ron would have been it, especially after he kicked your butt really bad.
Yes, exactly. And he thinks about it at the bookstore when Ron comes to confront
Right,
him.
he's
But
got that
like
gun.
Joe's not that big of an idiot. He's like, self-defense would be really hard at this moment. But it was awesome. Love those moments. And of course, you guys, please remember we're also on iTunes. You could listen to us in the car, download us for free, and we would really love it if you would rate, review, subscribe. It would be fantastic. And we'll give you a live shout out on air. We have a little bit of news and gossip for you, and then we're gonna ask questions to Elizabeth.
AfterBuzz TV News.
That's
I don't know if I've heard that before.
Okay, you guys, we do have a little bit of news. So we're very excited to announce that the author of our beautiful novel, You, Caroline Kepnes, will be in studio live with us next week. So we will be interviewing her here at AfterBuzz TV. So we're really excited about that. And it's really, oh wow.
There we go.
More
Sound
sound effects, it's the
Love
best.
it.
And we're really excited too to mention her because she is actually the writer of this week's episode. So not only did she write the book, but she actually wrote episode 8, and I mean it was so beautifully written. What do you think about that, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
she's like every actor's dream as a screenwriter. Which is incredible because she also writes these incredible novels. And also, I feel so close to Caroline because she is kind of Beck in real life. You know, because it comes from her, and like a part of the inspiration for Beck is Caroline. So we're just
It's
so-
amazing.
Yeah, it was just so easy to embody Beck with Caroline's words.
Of course.
That leads us to our next segment, of course, which are questions for you, Elizabeth. So, did you know about the book before? Did you just read it once you got the role? How did it all happen?
I had not read the book before, and I read it in between my first audition and my callback. Really quickly.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then
I
have
need
you
my
read the
iPad
second?
turner.
Have you read the second one yet?
I haven't read the second one, but my grandmother has read it, and I think she mailed it to me.
That's amazing. Well, so you spoke on like Caroline being the person that is Beck, kind of, that she really inspired this. Me personally, I know all of us have talked about it. Even from the first episode, the way Beck is presented to us, you know, as women that are either in their 20s or early 30s, like we really are able to connect with that, especially those that are just single millennials kind of thing. Did you really, really connect with her when you read her?
100%. It was very easy to tap into her because I too am like a 20-something artist living in New York City, trying to figure out the best way to live my life. Whether it's like how to feed myself or like how to be in a relationship, how to have healthy friendships. Like I think Beck's story and what Beck struggles with is very universal
It really is. What about you guys? Some questions from the peanut gallery over here?
I'm saving mine for later.
Okay.
I do want to know. So you got this. You got the script. You read the. Okay. You
I read the
read the
script.
book after you read the script for the
Yes,
audition.
yeah.
Did you know just from the script how what it was truly about?
I
Like
had
what
no
did you get from
idea.
the sides?
I had no idea. In the sides, it was like me drunk at a bar and then like reading poetry and then like flirting with a guy, like at the cab scene in the first episode after she's thrown up on him, which is such a great scene.
So good.
So good.
That was the audition. And so I didn't know. And so I was reading the book. I just kept reading, and for those of you that know, I was very surprised, and I didn't realize how dark it was. I was reading the book and I was like, oh. Yeah, I didn't know what I was getting myself into until then.
Yeah,
Wow,
absolutely.
must have been a surprise.
So one question from the chat wants to know any chance of Beck narrating another episode?
I would say there's a strong possibility
Yes.
for some more
That's
inner thoughts.
I think that would be great because when it first happened, you get to hear just the change of voice and who's narrating, and their perspective was awesome during that episode a few weeks ago. But we also have from Elizabeth Lail Brazil. She wants to know your family seems supportive for your work as an artist. Any advice for other artists who aren't as lucky?
I know. I really am so lucky because I do think it takes belief, like the power you can give someone just by believing in them is tremendous. And my parents certainly did that for me. And I would say if you have any teachers or mentors or even friends that you feel like really are your fans and support you and believe in you, like hold on to that and really nurture those relationships, and just try to stay true to who you are, and eventually your family will fall in line, I hope.
I think it does work like that. Sometimes
Yeah.
they just have to be
Yeah.
proven to what you're doing and what your passion
Yeah.
is, and then they'll fall in line or start to
Yeah.
support you in that manner.
Definitely. I remember when I got my first job, like the first thing I did was call my parents to tell them when I booked a job, which was miraculous to me, like this girl from North Carolina. And
What part of North Carolina?
I'm from Asheboro, where the zoo is. Where are you from?
Asheville, and
Okay,
I always
much
get
cooler.
that,
I always get that.
Asheboro? I'm like, no,
No.
Asheboro is the zoo. I'm the Biltmore house. So,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
great. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no,
I thought that
no,
was just
that's
a cool moment.
amazing.
Yes.
Well, before we have to get to our book segment, though, I just have one very important question I need to ask before we get out of here and you guys talk book, which I wish I could too. What was it like working with Penn Badgley? Just like give us some insight into him.
You guys, Penn is like truly the most perfect man. In the sense, really, I should say human, because he has this miraculous ability to treat everyone the same and to like really come at everything very thoughtful and with an open heart space. He's very spiritual, and it emanates off of him, like the goodness is like emanating out of his pores. And so for something as like tricky as this show, he and I had a lot of long and hard conversations about like what we were making and how to create a safe space. And so he was literally like my dream partner.
Co-author. I like that. Just
Yeah,
especially the
good
safe
answer.
pace, just so everyone's comfortable and you
Yeah.
produce your best work. So that's awesome
Yeah,
for the both of you. Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, guys, before we get to our special segment, me, Taquaila, and Renee are going to have to scoot out. Elizabeth is going to scoot into Renee's chair to talk book. But, of course, we want to tell you guys all where to find all of us on social media to keep on talking about the show. Renee?
You guys can follow me at Renee Ariel on Instagram and on Twitter, and check out my blog, sextingandthecity.com.
You guys can find me at Maggie Clark on camera on Instagram and at Maggie on camera on Twitter.
I am Taquaila Jackson. You can find me at I am Taquaila on all Instagram and post. And also tomorrow at 7 p.m. for The Good Doctor.
And you guys can find me, Sam Davidson, at SamD43, Twitter and Instagram, SamDavidsonEntertainment.com. I'm going to be doing on Wednesdays at 10, the Riverdale After Show, and Thursdays at, 9 on Wednesdays, Thursdays at 10 for Legacies. And of course, Elizabeth, where can we find you?
Good thing I memorized this. My Instagram is at Eliza Boone.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's a good one. Okay, guys, we love you. We are going to switch out right now, so do.
So hi, everybody. We're back here at AfterBuzz TV. I'm your host, Maggie Clark, and this is our very special segment called Book versus Show, where we talk all about Caroline Kepnes's novel You versus episode 8 of You on Lifetime. And I'm joined with the star of You on Lifetime, Elizabeth Lail. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So just a warning, if you have not read the book, you might want to end this podcast or video right now because we don't want to give away any spoilers, but if you don't mind spoilers, keep watching. Or if you've read the book, of course, continue joining us, please. So Elizabeth, first of all, we already talked about the fact that you've read the book. I would like to know what your first impressions of Beck were from reading the entire novel.
Oh, in the novel, we don't get to know her as well in the sense of we don't always know we never see what she's thinking or anything like that. And my first impression was essentially like, oh no, what have you gotten yourself into? This is worst case scenario. This is all young relationships, but going the worst it could possibly go, like so much worse than being ghosted or
Right. Did you think she was a good person?
I do think Beck is a good person. I just think good people sometimes lie and good people are messy, and she's imperfect, but that's, to me, is the best part about her.
Right. And being a young woman in New York City, like you mentioned before, I mean, you're on such a journey of finding yourself. And I think that this was so reflective of, my personal journey and so many other women who are just trying to figure it out, just doing their best. So I also want to know, what do you think about the adaptation of the show from the book? Do you think that it was a good adaptation? Do you think that it was a good idea, that there were a lot of changes that were made?
I think that it's pretty miraculous when you have something like the book that works so well, to be able to put it into another medium, I think is a huge feat, and to do it well. And I like to think that they have done it well and that it has turned out all right. You guys can tell me, book readers. And I think that they made some TV changes, but the incredible thing is like Caroline, as the author, she was always in the loop. And so I feel like the characters were protected, and the integrity of like Beck and Joe is still there.
Good.
I think.
That was my next question, if she was involved in, the adaptation along the whole process. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think she was involved, but she also wanted it to be the best it could be. And so she was like, TV people, take this and make it for TV.
It was her baby.
Yeah.
That's great. So talking about changes between this episode and the corresponding chapters, the major changes were dealing with Karen and Joe. So basically, Karen and Joe had their relationship, but there was no affair with Beck and Joe in the book. And there was no big confrontation between Karen and Beck in the book. And I want to know your thoughts, but me personally, I really enjoyed this confrontation. I think that it really served
I thought you were going to say I really enjoyed the sex.
Well, I already said that.
Excess sex added in.
Yeah, but I think that, you know, having the affair and having that confrontation between the two characters was so important for the drama of the show and moving the show forward. And also because it was just planting those seeds of doubt in Beck's head. So I feel like in the next episode, we're going to see her and Joe not be super happy and blissful because of that conversation she had with Karen.
I think it's gonna I mean, if you've read the book, it all kind of comes to a head with Beck's cheating habits, and I think that that's gonna continue to unfold itself.
Oh man, so we're gonna be definitely seeing Dr. Nicki. The book readers know what happens next and ultimately what we think we'll see in the final episode. And we know you can't give anything away, but are we in for some major shocks and twists and turns? Are the book readers? Are we going to see some things a little different?
You know, I think it's pretty similar.
Okay.
It's been a long time since I've read the end of the book, but my grandmother calls me after every episode, and she's like, "Well, this wasn't in the book, or this was in the book."
We can show her this.
She's following
segment.
along. Yeah, she would love that. And so I'm sure she'll let me know.
Great. Good. Well, we are so excited for the next 2 episodes. And Elizabeth, we are so thrilled that you joined us here at AfterBuzz TV. We're so grateful you took the time to visit us. Again, you guys, you can see me at Maggie Clark on camera on Instagram and
At Eliza Boone.
Yes, on Instagram. Yes. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you tune in next week to see us chat with Caroline Kepnes. And before we go, anything else you want to shout out before we sign off? Anyone you want to say hi to, or any projects you would like to tease that are coming up?
I just want to say hi to all my fans, and I was telling them earlier, my heart is with you all in Brazil, and I'm just sending love and light.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much. And thank you so much for watching and listening, everyone. And until next time, buzz you later. Bye.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.